So we're sitting here getting ready to, well, starting to plan out the event that we're going to have on May
8th.
8th, and we're tentatively calling it Unmasking and talking a little bit right now about what that means to us and how we would bring that idea into an event. And Cassie, I wish we had been recording before we hit because you were just talking about that idea of like if we're thinking about calling in community gathering in this space that we're trying to create in the ways that we do, that would essentially be a big part of the people that we're calling in, even ourselves. This idea that we mask in the world in different ways, and um, I wish.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just touching that, like in the neurospicy communities, that I think so much of the spiritual awakening for people that are not neurotypical or muggles, like we have this innate wisdom in us that we have, covered up and shape shifted and stepped into boxes um, that have really damped down our light. And so when I think about unmasking, it's like, how can we help as many people as possible find spaces where that's comfortable to do so that they feel called to step, in whatever way that they feel to be who, we really are. I don't know if that touched all of it, but that was like the intention of what I was saying.
That's really good. Yeah. And just reading from that description that we were working with too, masking being ways of interacting in order to appear neurotypical or to fit in with societal expectations. And it can involve mimicking social cues, suppressing, it's stimming, that's what it's called. Okay. That's a new term to me. Forcing eye contact, hiding special interests, actions taken to avoid stigma, rejection, and misunderstanding. And I think what comes up for me is like, it is about creating spaces for that, right? Because a lot of the things that I feel like I probably mask, and I'm just allowing myself to acknowledge that, there are a lot of places where it doesn't feel safe to do that. I,
Like where? Where does it feel safe? I mean, really?
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about creating this space because I mean I crave that too. And I don't think I even knew through most of my life that I was on any sort of spectrum. I just knew that I was hiding my true self because I wanted to please everyone else. And I was working like I was allowing an abandonment wound to run the show, but I wasn't aware of it. So even if we're not on the spectrum, so to speak, there's a lot of trauma and other things that can inform our, putting those masks on and shrinking into something that isn't truly us. And just to have a space where you can practice, because I think you have to feel safe in order to allow that to come out, those true essence pieces of ourselves to come out. And that's what I like, let's practice. I do love that. Just thinking it would be wonderful to have an authentic relating component to that because that's essentially what that is, right? Practicing vulnerability, authentic sharing, which doesn't mean exposing your soul and all of your deepest secrets to someone, but like being congruent with what your internal experience is and giving that voice with someone and seeing what it's like to practice active listening or compassionate, non-judgmental space with someone as well. Because I think there is a price to, I mean, when I think about some of my own experiences, there have been moments in time, and I'm guessing most people can relate to this, where I've taken a chance and I've let in some part of myself be seen that I normally don't, and have been ridiculed or judged for it or laughed at, especially as a kid. Um, and what happens is that reinforces that voice in my head that wants to keep me safe, that says, yeah, don't do this. It's a protective mechanism. You don't want to feel like this, Tim, so just don't do that again.
And then you throw a lifetime worth of experiences on top of that. And now I'm at a point in my life where I've had moments in time where I've realized I'm masking so well that I don't even know that I'm doing it anymore.
Yep.
And maybe that's where parts work comes in when you start to come in touch with that inner child part of you that didn't worry about things in those ways. Connect to the magic.
And that we still have that. Like, even though we have all of these masks and all of this stuff that we've learned how to do to really survive, right? That we still do have, like, I always say, like, it's our original genius, like it's still here. Our magical child is another, term I put on it. That if we don't like recover them and let them kind of guide us to help us remember, it's a soul loss. We have a lot of grief, actually, around not being able to be who we really are.
And I would go as far to say, only from my own experience, that holding all of that in and not allowing the authenticity and the authentic self to come out can cause physical symptoms. I mean, I have autoimmune right now and I am healing from it, but in spinal issues. And I have no doubt that that is because I kept myself small and inauthentic most of my life.
Yeah. When you're so energetic, right? Like all of us. And I think that's the whole thing with ADHD too, right? It's like we have a lot of energy. We came in with a lot of energy because we're at a different frequency than most of humanity. And when we really understand that when we've masked, we're toning that down. And it physically starts us harming us from trying to stay in the lower vibrations to fit in and not be weird or not be too much. Oh my God.
It's a big
Don't be too much.
hmm
My biggest wound.
Yeah, I feel like I've had multiple conversations with people in recent times where that was essentially the essence of the story of being a kid and saying, don't do that around our friends or don't do that out in public or it's too much. Don't embarrass me. All of these things of us expressing ourselves in some way and then being told that that wasn't appropriate. Um, and maybe it's true as an adult that in some, again, like in some situations, um, I mean, masking is a protective mechanism and it might be appropriate. But so maybe the question is like, how do we create spaces? How do we um, find ourselves more and more in spaces where we feel empowered to to share, to test the waters, to experiment, to give feedback, to receive feedback, all of those things in ways that don't feel judging, just feel like humans interacting and learning about each other, or even better, aliens doing it with each other.
Well, and I can feel like what I might have been feeling when I was still masking so much, hearing this, it would scare me because I would imagine that would all just be ripped off. And that is not at all what we're talking about. We're talking about, bite-sized pieces as it works for you. Like I think we're talking about having an experiential uh, event where we have, some writing, maybe some authentic relating, just different ways of having that experience and doing it at a pace that feels okay. It's not all going to happen at once. And we're also not suggesting that, oh, I'll just, like Tim was saying, it's about how when you feel safe, who you feel safe with, and then, gently uncovering things.
That's really a practice,
Yeah.
and we have to be at a place where we're ready to enter into the laboratory, to experiment. We, because if not, if our nervous systems can't, if we're not ready to experiment, it can be too much. And it's a stretch for most people that are neurospicy. to even show up and make eye contact on Zoom, and like to give, give ourselves permission that we don't have to do that if it doesn't feel okay.
Hmm.
To start normalizing and validating these things so that we can come out of isolation and we can let ourselves, it's like, come from that bud to opening, flowering together.
Love that. I feel even just learning how to give voice to things. I know in authentic relating events and practices when you are feeling in some way or another like you're broken, which happens, when you can share a few words about how you're feeling and then hear that reflected in the group, the circle that's with you, suddenly it normalizes in such a way it's like, I'm not broken. I'm just having a human experience. And yet also, like you said, Cassie, I feel even in talking about this, it feels dangerous. And thinking about hitting stop and like sharing this recording, it feels a little dangerous. I feel a dysregulation in my nervous system. I feel this jitteriness in my chest, fight or flight. Um, yeah, all of those warning systems in my subconscious coming online and saying, "What are you doing, Tim? This is going to end up getting you kicked off the island." Yeah.
Right? It takes a sense of like being a renegade,
Hmm.
like you have to pull that warrior part out of you, that all of us have. It's just, the more integrated we become, the more strong our strength in showing up to do those things gets bigger. Which we all, it's like if I was to ask each of you, how did you get here? How can you be here and not hide and mask yourself?
Good question.
Practice. Practice and having safe people to do it with.
100%.
Having safe people, seeing others model it,
Hmm.
finding that permission and being with others who are open to it. Yeah, that's a big one.
I think about the kids on the telepathy tapes, right?
Hmm.
Like no one would have listened to them, maybe not no one, but there was a there was this calling for something to give people some kind of insight. And I feel like so much of our masking is like hiding the really cool fucking parts of us
Hmm.
that are, sensory and colorful and, just alive. Because the world is like, I always say it's like sepia colored when we're supposed to be like the rainbow.
Mm.
But we can't do it unless we're in safe enough community or so that our nervous system can relax enough that then we can be brave enough. Yeah.
And I believe that once, it takes hold in individuals, then it flowers out into collectives, and then that flowers out into even, more populations, and it becomes easier to do it because we normalize it. We're normalizing it. And
And
I
the,
believe that's happening.
Mhm.
Making the weird cool.
Hmm.
I often, after authentic relating events, will hear people say it's like, how do I have more of this in my day to day? Because the things that get shared in those spaces that we co-create together to practice and explore and play in, um, the things that, like you say, Cassie, the things that come out are incredibly cool. Um, and you learn things about people that you would have never imagined. And their stories and adventures and interests and hobbies and passions and all of these things. And it's like, why am I not asking these questions of the people around me every day? And of course, the answer comes back to the fact that it doesn't feel safe. But then maybe that's the bigger question that having that experience creates is, well, how do I create this in whatever ways I can, in ways where it does feel more and more safe? Yeah, I think that would be fun to presence too, somehow. Well, thank you both.
Yeah, I'm excited for the event.